Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is David and I'm known as Unity Freedom. Today I have a topic I'd like to talk about. It's about psychology, and without further ado, I'll come back and we'll talk. So today's topic is about psychology, and the reason why I like to talk about psychology is because a few days ago I had a reaction. I have a reaction about a posting that I have that I posted on a photography forum about some ideas that I like to share with some people, and I put it in, and I realized that after I shared it there were a couple of negative feedback, and many people that read my post, they didn't like what I have to say. I mean, what I wrote was just personal opinion about certain aspects of photography, which is like, it's my hobby. Photography is my hobby, and I have certain ideas, new ideas that I like to share, and I thought by sharing the ideas I would have a positive feedback. But I didn't realize that I received some negative, nasty feedbacks, and I reacted to it, and it took me a couple of days to recover. And of course, I discovered why I reacted to it, and I realized that there's nothing to react to those people who are against my posts and my insights and my opinions. So today I'm going to talk about psychology because I have contemplated on this, and I discovered a few insights, a few things that I like to share today. So let's start now. So what is psychology? Well, psychology to me is about certain beliefs and opinions I have in myself. So, for example, how do you relate to someone? If you haven't met someone, how do you relate to that person? Obviously, before you meet that person, you would create a mental image of that person. And then you collect information about the person, and you put or refine that mental image to include those information. It may not be an accurate information, but it is nonetheless a set of information you have collected from maybe a public internet or from reading the person's articles on a magazine. So you have a rough mental image of that person. It's the same thing that you want to have a taste of an apple. You haven't seen an apple before, but you want to try and have a taste of the apple. So you first have to imagine what an apple is. You might read some articles about an apple, a magazine about apples, but you just have a mental image of an apple. So you can relate to, so you can understand what other people talk about. If they're talking about an apple, you know what it is. But you don't really have a physical experience of an apple yet, until, of course, you see a physical apple, and then you take a bite. Once you've taken a bite, you have a physical experience of an apple. Because if you honestly ask yourself, how would you have a taste of the apple by imagining it? You can read the magazine, you can read the construct of an apple, the chemical and biological aspects of the apple from scientific magazines. But how do you actually have a an experience of an apple. Of course, the only way to have an experience of an apple is to take a bite of a physical apple. You cannot have an experience of an apple just by imagining it. I mean, how can you imagine something and have an experience of, that is the same as a physical experience? But nonetheless, the experience of imagining what an apple smells like and tastes like is something that you can relate to, that someday when you get to see a physical apple, you can then refine that mental image you have developed or you have formed in your mind by refining it, by tasting the apple, by biting the apple and experiencing the juices, the texture of the apple, and that physical experience refine your understanding or your relation to the apple. And now you have a physical relationship or physical experience of an apple. There's no doubt that is an apple. So having a physical experience with something is obviously the best. But sometimes when you relate to people on the internet, having a physical experience can be very difficult, because if a person is some distances away from you, meeting the person, you may have to take a flight, an airplane, to fly to a different country. Sometimes a country you cannot get to the country because the country may not welcome you because they're in a war, such as Russia, or a country such as America that is now against immigrants or against foreign visitors who do not agree with the current presiding president's opinions and ideas. So you're limited to knowing people in those countries through the internet, through Zoom, or through internet forums where you discuss ideas freely with these people. And you can, I mean, many people are open to ideas. The question is, are they open? Are they truly open to new ideas? And how do they relate to you when you express new ideas? Well, they have to create a mental image. For example, if I'm expressing new ideas about certain photography techniques or ways to improve photography, then in order for them to listen to me, they have to first create a mental image of David, of who I am. And then, using that information, they can then, using me, the mental image in their mind, digest the information that I share about photography, and then that can relate to whether my insights and my new ideas about photography would help them improve their own photography. And so if they are to know me better physically, if they know me physically, they've seen me, they've met me, they've talked to me, they know me deeply, who I am, when I communicate with them, they have this mental image, a more accurate representation of the mental image of me. And so there's very little misunderstanding because they know me personally. But what if they don't really know me personally? They just know me by my name or by my handle on the internet. And then in order to fill in the blanks that they don't know me physically, they fill in the blanks using their own personal biases. What they think, what they can approximate who I am in relation to them. Because if you don't have the physical experience of something, you have to approximate what that physical experience might be. And it might not be an accurate physical relationship, because how could you have a, an accurate experience of something you haven't met or you haven't physically experienced? So what happened was several of these people read my article and they got angry. They didn't agree what I say. And I felt attacked because I didn't do anything harmful. I'm just sharing my insights. I'm sharing my ideas. But I couldn't understand why they were attacking me. They were pointing out several things in the article that they disagree or find at fault. And of course, we all have personal opinions. And these opinions are based on our personal background, how we develop or foster these opinions are based on how we approach our life. In this case, for me, how I approach photography through my personal background and my interests, which is not the same as theirs. But nonetheless, I'm just sharing my personal opinions, my personal experience, which is not going to be exactly agreeable to the people who read my opinions. And so what they say is that what I wrote were offensive, which is kind of strange because how could I write something about photography that are quite offensive? But I realized one thing is that they have created a mental image of me based on their interpretation of me. So whatever they have in themselves, their psychology, colored their interpretation of me. So they, when they created a mental image of me in order to relate them to me, to my articles, they created a mental image, a representation of me that is not actually me, but it's a me nonetheless, based on their ideas, how I should respond, how I should talk, how I should have, what sort of opinions I have. It must be the same opinions, it must be the same experiences as them, because that's how they can relate to me, because their mental image of me has the coloring of their own personal experiences and opinions. So if they listen to me and they don't hear what they want to hear, they find my insights offensive. And so that's what at first I reacted because I thought, how can someone get offended by my insights about photography? But then I realized the ideas I have about photography, how to improve photography, were really challenging their psychology, because they were doing certain things the old ways that are good, but not as effective as what I was trying to help them improve or share my insight to help them improve. And they assumed that I would have the same ways of doing things, the same ways as they do. But when they realized it was something different, and in a way challenges them, and they think they're just doing something wrong, the ways they're doing things were actually not as efficient as my ways of doing things, and they felt threatened. They felt offended. But this is happening all in their mind. I didn't do anything. I just wrote an article. The words caused them to react. The words caused them to fight back, to push back on my insights and opinions. So there is saying that we all make personal choices that lead to experiences that form our opinions. And as a person who is open, who is open-minded, who is in an open system, a person respects other people's personal choices and personal opinions. And that is the fundamental aspect of dignity and respect. Because we understand everyone have different approaches to life, to hobbies. It doesn't necessarily mean that your approach is the only approach. So the open-minded person may find articles such as what I wrote to be helpful, because if you're open-minded, you can see how can I improve my skills. So you're not really closing your mind, because when you create a mental image of someone, you're not having the complete picture of that someone. So you always have to be open-minded so that you continually refine that mental image of that someone. You get to know that someone. The more you get to know, and the more physically you get to know that someone, have the physical experience that with that someone, the more you refine that image, and the more accurate that image is. That only happens in an open system, because you're open to new ideas, new information, and of course, various different opinions, which can broaden your horizon. But a person who creates a mental image, a limited and not quite accurate mental image of someone, if they are closed-minded, what happens? They will not update that mental image. They will see the mental image they created in their mind of me, to relate to me, to my articles, as being the ultimate truth. This is me. In their mind, the me that is not anything close to who I really am. But they have taken that and made it the real me. And the hatred and the animosity and the aggressiveness of these people that want to yell at me and punish me for writing something like that offended them, they are actually yelling at the mental image they created in their mind. And that's what I realized. They're not really yelling at me, the real me. They're actually yelling or being offended by the me that they created in their mind. And so that was what a few days of contemplation I realized I also have something in me, a mental image of me about them, that I expect them to accept my ideas and my opinions with peace. That was my expectation. But of course, it wasn't the accurate them. The people who read my articles, the mental images I created of them weren't accurate. They might be also peaceful people. They might be rational people or reasonable people. But what I created of them were all based on me, how I would react, how I would be open to these new ideas. and I superimpose my beliefs, my opinions onto the mental image of them, and I relate to them through that mental image. But as soon as I let go of that mental image, and then I realize I see truly the real them. They're just human beings. They're people like like-minded photographers. But I see that unlike me, they're not really open-minded to new ideas. And so I also realize I have to just let go. I'm not here to change other people's minds. I'm here to share my insights. If you're open to it, maybe you can benefit from my insights and expand your horizon. But if you're not open to it, that is your free will. And that got to me that everyone has free will to accept or deny new knowledge. If you're in a closed system, you really can't see other opportunities or other new ideas because you think that your mental image of someone, of things, your opinions are the only ultimate truth. Other ideas or other people's opinions, they may provide more insights or may provide breakthroughs so you can escape from your own closed system and enter into an open system. You would just deny it. You would just walk away from it because you feel angry that how dare these people would challenge me. But these people are not challenging you. It is yourself, something in you that felt challenged. That something in you is something that is preventing you from escaping from your own closed system. And so, whenever you find when you're discussing things with people and people fight back, push back, you ask yourself this question: are you sharing your insights and your opinions freely with no intention of trying to convert people or change people's minds? You're just sharing because you're so happy to share. You're so delightful to share some insights, some breakthroughs that, that you want others to benefit. Maybe something like some cooking method that you find that will make certain things easier. Maybe a new way of changing oil in your car. Those things. You're not trying to challenge these people. You're just sharing these new ideas to people. But then when you feel some kind of pushback or people say, I don't want to listen. No, you shouldn't say anything. Then just contemplate this. What is it that you're sharing? Is it new ideas? Or is it you're blaming people? Or you're harassing people? Or you're judging people? If you're just sharing new insights and you get pushback or you get people saying that you shouldn't be sharing these, just contemplate your reaction and see, why do you react to these people's reaction? Because you are just sharing your new ideas. And so there's always something in us that create mental images of everything in the world so we can relate to. But these mental images require refinement to allow us to give us a more closely aligned relationship with these mental images, with people, with like certain expectations in life. And then you would look at these mental images and say, if I have done all I could to refine these mental images so I can understand the person better or understand the conditions or events better, do I really need to keep that mental image, or I just throw it away and have the physical experience? Like for me, when these people became angry at me, judging me for writing these articles to improve photography, I have mental images of them. But when I let go of these mental images of them and accept who they are physically and have their physical experience, I come to understand that what they're doing is not really them they're doing, it's something in them, the ego, the selves, that are reacting to my articles. If they were to abandon the selves, the ego, they would be just like me, have the physical experience, and then they would not be angry. They would not react. Just like I realized, why should I need to react? Why should I be angry at them for criticizing my article, for judging my insights about photography? So these are the things that I like to share today. Please subscribe to my channel, and I thank you all for spending some time to listen to my insights, to my talk. And so I will see you next time. And thank you again for subscribing to my channel. This is David saying goodbye.